Criticism is an unfortunate necessity when it comes to video games, and indeed, most entertainment media. It can spawn a great deal of negativity, but on the flip side, criticism keeps the developers grounded and lets them communicate with their fanbase in order to produce the best possible experience. We've already covered what the fandom really wants in Mass Effect Andromeda, but what about those things that fans don't want to see? We asked on the Mass Effect subreddit what people don't want to see in Mass Effect Andromeda, and here is what they came up with. My name is Tucker, and welcome to Mass Effect Follower. Ever since the latest chapter in BioWare's epic fantasy franchise was released, fans have been divided, with some saying that they wanted success to influence the development of Mass Effect Andromeda, while others continually insist that Inquisition's missions and exploration mechanics wouldn't work in this setting. But what most seem to agree on is that Mass Effect Andromeda needs to stand on its own and have its own identity. Whether or not it takes influence from other sources like Dragon Age, being able to easily see past those influences rather than be drawn to their own blatant implementation seems to be the ideal situation for the majority of fans. This has been a hot issue in the gaming world for quite a while now. The idea being, if a developer has content that's available on day one, then they should have easily implemented it into the game from the start rather than go for a quick cash grab. Some insist that the day one DLC doesn't necessarily mean that the content was finished at the same time as the game itself, while others respond that if that is the case, they could still put it out as DLC without charging for it. Whatever your feelings on the matter, it is still something that spurs passionate debates among gamers. In the case of Andromeda, many fans still have a sour taste over the From Ashes DLC for Mass Effect 3. Here you have an important character who adds a rich amount of story content, and some fans aren't even able to see any of that without paying extra. Avoiding this sort of practice in the future would go a long way in developing BioWare's relationship with its fans. Mass Effect 3 did a lot of things right, but in the eyes of many longtime players, it took a few strides that it didn't need to. For some, the system of acquiring and managing quests in Mass Effect 3 was interesting and immersive. From Commander Shepard overhearing the problems of a concerned galactic citizen on the Citadel to the mission log where quests are labeled based on importance to the story. Other fans, however, don't share the same appreciation, citing an unclear system in relaying which missions are on a time limit and, by extension, when that time limit expires. Meanwhile, in Mass Effect, all you had were missions and assignments. Assignments, being the side quests of Mass Effect 1 and 2, were clearly labeled and could be tackled at any time, with no time limit on them. It seems to be split down the middle which system fans prefer, but the pro-assignment crowd is definitely making their voices heard. Ask anybody who's played the games what their least favorite part of Mass Effect 2 is, and 9 times out of 10, you'll hear probing for minerals. Yes, possibly the most universally panned aspect of the game, and possibly the whole series, resource scanning was time-consuming and mind-numbingly tedious to a great many players. It is an issue that has come up in gaming since the early days, and it likely won't go away anytime soon. Many developers, when they want to pad a game's length but lack the means to add more story-centric content, will implement a feature whose sole purpose is to add playtime. From level grinding in JRPGs to sailing everywhere in The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, it is a point of frustration for gamers ever since most even began playing. BioWare seems to have taken a hint due to their lack of a similar system in Mass Effect 3, as well as streamlining of the hacking and bypassing systems, so those with similar complaints can be hopeful. Just like the characters in the Mass Effect universe, players have had enough war at this point. Even while the first game focused on exploration, there is still a clear underlying build-up throughout the game to an inevitable galaxy-sized fight with the Reapers. This time around, many players want to not just recapture the spirit of wonder and discovery from the first Mass Effect, but bring it even more into focus. Sure, there is going to be conflict. There has to be, but does it really have to be on such a large scale? A more intimate setting with less dire consequences may be just what the Doctor ordered. After all, we are just discovering a massive new galaxy. Would it be too much to ask for the story to be centered around that instead of another ancient evil hell-bent on destroying all intelligent life? Yes, Andromeda is the beginning of a whole new story in a whole new setting with a whole new cast. But does that mean it should completely set itself apart from its predecessors? We are not talking constant references or blatant cameos, but to completely distance it from the original story and setting might be taking it too far according to some fans. with the recent trailer depicting the new games essentially being sent off with a speech from Commander Shepard, there's obviously going to be a link. The question is, how will that link manifest itself in the new game? Maybe a minor character from the original story will be stationed on the ship, or maybe we'll come across a familiar face on our journey. Basically, while fans don't want BioWare to pull a George Lucas and beat them over the head with references to the original trilogy, a subtle but obvious connection would likely be very welcome. For a little while after Mass Effect 3's release, one of the big complaints players had was the fact that the best ending was impossible to achieve without playing the game's multiplayer. While this issue was quickly fixed with the patch, the whole debacle still stings for some players. Mass Effect Andromeda has already been confirmed to contain a multiplayer mode, and fans are excited but a little wary. While BioWare seems unlikely to repeat the same mistake, there is always the possibility that the multiplayer mode will affect the campaign just a little too much, whether it be unlocking the best equipment or even making it the most viable option for building up funds. Luckily, BioWare is a company that always listens to fan feedback, so odds are this won't be a huge issue, but nonetheless, the fans are still making their voices heard. So how about you? What do you hope that we don't see in Mass Effect Andromeda? Let us know in the comments below, and while you are there, give this video a like and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.